we know that more than 80% of what is produced comes from family agriculture. So this is a very interesting theme in the context of food safety, especially sustainability, because sustainability in this environmental bias, there's an involvement that it's bigger and practical of the environmental sustainability. The economical issue, it's a matter of survival. Every one of us needs to survive somehow. And family agriculture, a matter of sustainability, social sustainability, which is the most important, is the theme we have today. We from GAF, when we elected these three topics of food safety, global warming, and sustainability, are they cannot be dissociated. They are on the same page, the subjects. So it's very important. I want you to tell me about your experience to Romanna, Teté, and Hardi, and Fernando over there online. I'd like to start talking. Can you start, Romanna? Thank you very much for the opportunity. Good afternoon. To share our experience, especially our panelists, colleagues, and people who are watching us. This can help the family business to nourish people and regenerate the planet. And it's also an approach about the other panel you said about sustainability, because you cannot dissociate one thing from another. So let's talk about these issues, these points. This is not my aim because you have experts here to talk about this. But in Brazil, there's a federal law that describes the family agriculture as when the workforce of the family is predominant. Most of the income comes from farming, and the land used is not over the limit of 400 hectares, depending on the municipality where it is located. So these are small lands in numbers. Uh, the average of the area of the family agricultural business is 18 hectares. 70%, 77% of this area for cultivation comes from family farming. No, from the properties. There's a big difference from the small properties and the land possible to cultivate. Talking about the workforce, the people involved in this economic activity, it is 10 million people. 67% of the workforce engaged in practices, agricultural practices. And another piece of data that is strong, that demonstrates the strength of the family agriculture. It is 81 million hectares, 23% of the agri-lands in Brazil. And the workforce, most are men between 45 to 54 years old, only 5 years old, 54 years old. Only 5% of them completed higher education. Those data come from governmental official sources. Talking about food safety and results. We have 87% of manioc produced in Brazil comes from family agriculture, and beans and rice. So it is the basic food in the Brazilian table. In a very inner way, family farming is inherently linked to sustainability. The relationship is very strong with the land. It's the place where they live and work, and the result of the production is balanced between what they can sell and what the food that they use for eating. There's a diversity of crops. This diversity has a positive impact for the soil, on the ecosystem, and improves product quality. And usually it is organic because the family farmers, they live there and they feed off of what they produce. So this is very important for them. Nevertheless, family farming, we saw the positive impact in the essential aspects for the planet, like food safety, sustainability, climate change, but this impact can be multiplied. This is what we think. I represent a small movement that's gaining strength. Permaculture, sustainable extractivism, agroforestry system, and agroecology. This this study was published on worldgrain.com and replied in several media worldwide. It was a study conducted by the University of Washington showing the nutritional benefits in generative agriculture crops. And they even measure the amount of vitamins and minerals, sometimes 34, 5 or 40 in crops that come from the regenerative agriculture. So this is very meaningful. In the moment, we need to focus in immunity and to strengthen the immune system, the health condition of people. So when we can obtain in the same food, same crops, a bigger rate of nutrients and vitamins, this is very relevant. On the other hand, on the field of sustainability, several studies demonstrate that the regenerative systems, the permaculture, agroforestry, among others, they are able to capture carbon from the soil with a bigger efficiency than, for example, reforestation. So it's very meaningful. At the same time, those systems, these ways of producing crop that are very suitable for family farming also can have a social impact to be more economically viable for these small properties, both in the small volume of production divided with the family uses for their own consumption, and also through the prices in which they are sold. We have a challenge. We don't know. There's a governmental effort, the program to acquisition of food and to sell. And there's a policy of a minimum price, biodiversity products. These are important and necessary, but we also know that they are far from being enough. So in my participation, what is about what is the company's role of the private sector in this on these challenges. I believe that the companies can and should help turn farming a more viable business by bridging it with the market through fair trade practices. Going to present to an ecosystem of Regenera, one of the companies that I helped found, and we are a company, a small company, a young company, but we are part of a bigger ecosystem and more relevant that enables our business. I chose some organizations, some from many others. For example, Origins Brazil, it's our partner. It's a network, sustainable business network in the Amazon. There are 35 companies like us, and this network bridges the market and more than 2,000 farmers, extractivists, or indigenous in quilombolas, in areas of interest of the conservation in the Amazon. Also, we have the Rede Povos da Mato. It's another successful case. They have around 1,000 agroecological farmers, and they have an articulation nationwide of exchange and trade with these foods that come from the agroforest, permaculture, organic agriculture, and from sustainable extractivism. We also have the Cooperar in the region of Mapiá and Médio Purus in the Amazon. It cooperative of about 400 families. They have a successful case about cocoa beans, the wild cocos, and also Ecovila that works in the south states of Rio Grande do Sul, Paraná, Santa Catarina. About 2,000 family farmers. Why am I talking about them? So both the organizations and the companies, Viva Genera, this is us. We produce and we also are a brand of products that has its origin with inputs from the agroforest, agroecological, and sustainable extractivism. And we started to cultivate too, in partnership with Sitião Agroflorestal. We have Selva Paz, another industry and brand from energy bars made of agroforestry and sustainable extractivism ingredients. Small but big from Bahia. Cocoa, chocolate bean to bar manufacturer and brand that uses the wild cacao from the Amazon. Agroforestry Carbon is a digital platform that compensates carbon emissions from companies by promoting the cultivation of agroforestries. It's a permacultures. How do they relate to each other? Viva Regenera is connected to Origins Brazil, Povos da Mata, Cooperar Ecovida. Selva Paz is relations with Povos da Mata, and Cocoa with Cooperar, Ecovida, and Agroforestry Carbon, and with Ecovida and Povos da Mata also. It's easier to understand if you look at those four foods there. A babaçu oil, a, a blend powder, a chocolate, and an energy bar. They all come from our companies or associate companies. For example, the babaçu oil comes from the Xingu in Amazon. And it from with Origens Brasil, it goes to Viva Regenera. We buy from the cafeteria chain, and the origins bridges to make the fair trade. So we pay for this input which values their work of our indigenous partners. We can then or put them in a jar and we track them and do the education job to know what are the benefits. This powder has products that comes from the agroforestal, from Sitião, and we pay a higher price. Why do we pay this higher price if we know that? Because we know the origin. We follow the cultivation, the crop, and the harvest of this curcuma. Superior to the ones that are in the market, because we know that they help to a regenerative net. The ginger comes from the same network that is from Cooperar, another partner. Cocoa chocolates by the white cocoa from Cooperar that they supply other brands, but it's better than cocoa commodity. Why it's better? Because the quality of the cacao, because of the flavors that they reveal, and the social work that is done in this yeast process, and it's the quality is great, and the market recognizes, acknowledges that. They have this through tracking to show this the procedence of these products, so the market can attribute value to that. And also we have the Selvi-Passa energy bars, which is an initiative from Gudrun Gott, daughter of Ernest Gott. She's an agroforestry. She works with agroforestry in the south of Bahia. She buys the fruits and inputs from the Rede Povos da Mata, some of them from people who live off the land. And they also incentive this network. So who does this bridge with the market and the consumer? If you don't have this on the other side of the coin, we don't have a viability, a feasibility of this fair trade and the support of the family farm that comes from Xingu, from Cooperar or Povos da Mata. Viva Floresta is an e-commerce that sells direct to the consumer. Each order through Viva Floresta, they have agroforestry credit. A percentage of the sales support agroforestry and sustainable extractivism initiatives. Who choose this is the consumer. The consumer doesn't pay the bill, but they have the responsibility where those resources will be used. The partners who manage these resources are Instituto Nova Era, Vem do Xingu, Cooperar, SOS Amazônia, and Agroforestry Carbon, which is this platform that compensates the emissions by planting trees in agroforestry system. So this slide is the summary that it is possible to the work of the family farmer can be acknowledged and valued socially and recognized by the society, and also economically, so they can remain in their land, so that the guardians of the forest remain in the Amazon, so they can help us to conserve the forest and all the important, essential importance for the planet, so they have viability and dignity through some work that we think that is relevant and integral foods that have a nutritional rate better than highly scale produced foods. We believe in nur- nourish people, and if this family agriculture can be in a way that values the way you cultivate the lands, we have conditions to support even more and beyond the government and the governmental initiatives, the family agriculture. And we, as a ecosystem of organizations and companies, we are these companies which are all part of this regenerative network, Selvipass. We all those initiatives are very young. We are very small, especially if we are compared to agribusiness, like the big companies that work in the agribusiness. We are still learning, and we know that we're still going to commit mistakes. We're going to test models, but until now, we've been able to see this regenerative network is able to be self-sustainable in small scales. So we invite all of you to add experience and learning so we can improve in the private sector, and companies also can help the family business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Romanna. I see that, in fact, a few points here that you highlighted on the contribution that
Eu
businesses.
vejo que existe uma tendência, logicamente, que vocês trabalham como cadeia, agregando valor. Mas eu queria só citar um exemplo, um projeto da ABRAMILHO em parceria.
I'd like to mention here that a business in partnership with a technology company called Projeto Prospera. They started transferring. They got some small producers, and they started transferring technology and elevate corn productivity in Pernambuco state. And now they're expanding to go from some 1,200 kilos to 100 hectares by technology transfer. They're using the same technology of big producers. So thank you very much for your presentation. And second panelist, he's very well known. She's very well known. It's one of the most important representative of our state. And please, Teté, I'd like you to talk about your experience with family farming. Thank you very much, Sergio. So I'll start by talking a bit about my state, Mato Grosso. So my state is like other 3 states in the country. We have 3 very important biomas. So it's a state with a huge territory with more than 3,000 square meters, 3,000 million square meters. We have the Amazonic biome. 43% of our territory is Brazilian Cerrado, and the rest is Pantanal. So these 3 biomes are important in what our territory looks like. But Mato Grosso is well known as well for the high production of grains. We are champions in soybeans, corns, cotton production crops, and we have the largest bovine livestock in the country. It's more than 32 million animals. So all this is very important for the Brazilian economy. So we have a number of railroads that have been discussed to implementing some projects that are being discussed. And we have been highlighted as excellent producers. The other side of this coin is in the family farming. So Mato Grosso has a vast, wide territory with large mineral production, with the largest gold and diamond exporter, and we have some more than 3 million inhabitants in the state. Out of these 3.5 million, we have 100,000 families in family farming. So these families are distributed between traditional farming, and we have a large number of people in rural settlements. We also have agrarian families that have been settled by the federal government with funding, and we have native people and quilombola, former slaves families. And we have the Xingu, which is the first ever legal native land in the country. So these two are in our productive system, looking for their own share of the market and trying to have a different perspective for them. In Mato Grosso, as I mentioned, we have a challenge to overcome difficulties and the obstacles that we face in agricultural farming. Currently, we export more than R$ 1 billion in hortifruti. Even though we're large producers with frequent rains, very defined seasons, unfortunately, in the family farming, we still face challenges that make us exporters. So we still export fruits from Espírito Santo, Bahia, Goiás, São Paulo, from Rondônia as well. And this represents some 70% of our state. And we have challenges. And we have the family farming to bring opportunities for these families and social redemption for these families. Our objective is that these efforts that we're having, so they have access to land, could have been consolidated with public policies that that keep these people in farms, with the rural business, and not they don't feel forced to go to cities. So in certain productive areas, we were able to make the difference. Over the last 3.5 years, we've had from this government an increase in our funding. And so, in terms of for the funding for family farming was around 8 million, and 1 year after we moved to 56 million. Last year was 154 million, and this year to date we're already at 78 million reais. So, and we're investing in new techniques, making new techniques available, new technologies, and implementing different productive chains like livestock, dairy, greenery in cities, especially in green belts around bigger cities. But as well through partnerships that we're developing with different institutions. Like sharing agreements with Embrapa, developing manioc plantation, and we've been facing situation we were almost out of manioc in our state, and we had to come in and implement a system to make it available. And now we're regaining this production, as well as coffee. Embrapa has the lab developing coffee in Rondônia, and they've been doing very well on that region. And we have a technical assistance department called Empaer, and we're developing coffee in our state as well. And we receive guidance and training through irrigation and family agriculture, and living with cultures that are many times are new for them. I'd like to say that all this investment is possible due to the economic adjustment or economic restructuring of our finances, and it enabled us to do this very significant investment in our state in this field. We're also adhering to foreign funding from World Bank that we've named Mato Grosso Produtivo, and with this then program we have three main items. This will be an investment of $80 million from World Bank plus $20 million from the state of Mato Grosso, and this totals $100 million. And we have a deadline of 5 years starting August 2023, and we have components and we have focusing on family farming, productive chains that we already exist, and how we can improve these chains. Investing also in the quality of this production, investing in the sense of selling the result of this production. And I see in Romanna, we'll be having a few partners to discuss in this matter. As you've mentioned, in Xingu, people living in Xingu, they're already producing not only oil, but also some nuts that have their own market, not only national, but also international. And we're also acting with them. And we're discussing in selling this production. Also, the issue of legalizing land ownership and other items. And with this matter that Mato Grosso could be a great producer of greenery and livestock and other produce and commodities like coffee and cocoa beans. And so apart from the environmental side of it, there's also governance. Through governance, we're also taking into consideration all the associations and the different cooperatives of production and commercialization of this product in the whole state of Mato Grosso. And through this, we have the means to take agricultural family farming to develop in our state. I'd like to say that all these actions will be important for Mato Grosso. This work of intensifying production has the objective of bringing purpose to family farming, to allowing access to new technologies, and give them more opportunity to sell their produce, and opening doors for the national and international markets for them. We understand that Mato Grosso could have this role in supporting family farming, and this will, of course, bring a different scenario for the population of our state. I'd like to recall that we have a cooperation agreement with ABCZ in improving our livestock, because many of these family farming are in meat system or dairy process. And in August, we'll be attending an event in Uberaba. We'll have a meeting with ABCZ and sharing the experience of how to do this ABCZ work with family farming. And so we have these partners that we've been searching, and they're very important in the sense of consolidating this infrastructure. I'd like to thank the opportunity to be here. I'd like to tell you that Mato Grosso has this, is pleasant to have the opportunity to be a large producer, to be a scalable production, and we are aware as well that family farming will make the difference very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Teté Bezerra. I see that once again the state of Mato Grosso is on the vanguard, especially on the the farmers, and a long time, throughout time, they have shown this. And I think livestock, agriculture, you're taking your experience, your background to our Congress, and also your relationship with agriculture, regardless if it is big or small. The state of Mato Grosso, there's a many kinds, many types and sizes of properties. I think the family agriculture of the Mato Grosso is going to be a success under your coordination and direction. I hope it's this way. As I said, Mato Grosso is always on the avant-garde and is going to be followed by as an example to the rest of the country. I'm gonna pass now the word to Hardi. Something that you can be said within your structure about the family agriculture that it is important to our sector. It's up to you. Thank you very much, Sergio. I'd like to thank Romanna and Teté for sharing their experience, that each one in their areas. I think, Sergio, that you put in perspective this theme now about family business and the agribusiness. And I think our focus has to be the producer, the farmer. We have to worry about their well being, be it small or big. I'm going to talk on behalf of FIDA, the IFAD. It's a UN agency. The headquarters is in Rome. We have 40 offices all over the world. Rome is the center for agriculture of UN. We have 3 agencies that deal with this theme. FAO, which is there for the agriculture of United Nations. They do studies, documents. FIDA, which is a financial agency, a fund, an international fund that funds agriculture, and the World Program that works with emergencies. For example, the Cooperation South. As FIDA is a fund, you have money from the member nations uh, to have their projects like they're similar, like the one in Mato Grosso. FIDA also reached is the first agency of UN to have achieved that. We had the AAA, a system of rate, international rate system to have resources in the international market and have these resources to finance the agriculture. In the case of Brazil, we operate in a strategic mark that is underway from 2014 to 2022, and in it there's a limit of financial resources, so we have a very specific focus on the family agriculture, and by the mandate of our joint, we deal with rural poverty, which is connected with family farming. A greater part of these, more than 50% of these people, are poor, and we haven't talked yet about the possibility of products. So FIDA works only, IFAD works only for the focus in the arid regions of the Northeast, especially the Caatinga, which is a biome that is in the part of Northeast in Brazil. In our projects under implementation now, we benefit more than 1 million people, 250,000 people. In Bahia is in this area. The government has 2 with the World Bank and another with IFAD for the family agriculture. We are present in almost 1,000 municipalities in all states that has the arid areas in Brazil. In the north of Minas Gerais, Espírito Santo, and all northeast. Our work is done through the state governments from the northeast and Minas Gerais and Espírito Santo, but also with the federal government. We have a project with the Ministry of Agriculture that's been implemented all over the semi-arid regions of Brazil. We have several projects still in preparation. The implementation is almost $450 million, 2.5 billion Brazilian reais, and this is used for family. Almost all it's used for family agribusiness, even though it's used by the state governments and the federal government in loans, because Brazil has a average income that is high, but they are passed through these farmers in a non-refundable way. In this, I would like to show a little about the characteristics of IFAD in Brazil. In case of IFAD in Brazil, we work with the poorer, the poorest of the poor, especially in the places where IFAD works. Sometimes the public policies don't arrive, don't get there. We went in Pilão Arcado in Bahia municipality. It's impossible to go there and come back in the same day. You have to sleep over. So it's the profile I fed, where people are practically forgotten, and to connect those people with the market. I think Romanna gave a very good example about this connection and work as a network. For us, this is a very important aspect. Another aspect that is important to highlight is what we call focalization. So we are working with these family farmers that are poverty or extreme poverty. They are very vulnerable. So we have this work to include women, young people, and some indigenous people who live in the quilombos and extractivists. For example, in the northeast, the semi-arid is very common to remove licuri, to extract licuri. So a lot of these products, extractivist products, they are harvested by women. So our focus of inclusion is the women. Inside this mark, IFAD works with strategic goals, not only the increase of the production, but the diversification of production. To increase the capacities, many of these farmers don't have access to technical assistance. In our Teté, the Secretary Teté mentioned about this state organs, but in Northeast, 90% of the family farmers don't have access to technical assistance. So the projects are from IFAD, and this one in the goals of Mato Grosso with the World Bank is the technical assistance too. In this case, not only public, but also with the civil society that has a present. They know the producers, so we do arrangements with the civil society to get to these people faster, to these people who didn't have this kind of service. 42% of these farmers can't read, so it's a big challenge to is this technique to be proper to them, to include them, how to deal also with these knowledge barriers, and how do we work with the IFAD in Brazil. The financing is done, the funding is done via states, but on its whole, it gets to the family farmers. How can we ensure that this gets to these people? Practically, our projects don't work with families, individual families. We believe in the organization between the farmers. So a great part of these farmers, they are not organized. So the first way to do this technical assistance is to make sure they have more capacities and that they can strengthen organizations and to be together, or a producers organization. We call this investment productive projects. So the resources channel to this producer, this organization. When it doesn't exist, you first help to establish this organization. But in many cases they have, but it is very weak. They don't have conditions to receive. So we help to strengthen this organization. Another way is for farmers that are on another level. So it's a business plans. The ones that are organized, done via cooperatives. We work with several cooperatives. This helps us mainly to help to be part of the chain of market. They can increase their trade, commercialization, and even export in some cases. So we work with several allies. One of our allies in the states of Ceará, Maranhão, and Bahia, for example, is the association Slow Food, that has headquarters in Italy. So this is one example. We work several others that may serve as a platform to increase the commercialization of the products. On the private market, there are institutional markets that important that can be used for these family farmers to enter. For example, the national programs for the public schools, both public and institutional, private and institutional markets. But most people, these farmers are still living off their land. It's been about 30 days that it was issued a report about the food safety in the world, initiative of UNICEF, PMA, and WHO. That unfortunately in Brazil we have 60 million people with food insecurity and 50 with serious insecurity, food insecurity. So the food family agriculture plays an important role to have a diversification in their diets. Some examples of productive investment plans: we finance more than 15,000 around 300 million Brazilian reais investments, and also the diversified productive activities. The family agriculture is different from the agribusiness. It is more diversified because the family feeds off their own produce. These projects of investments, they have a strong characteristic of not only deal with one product, but with several products. And they invest in other areas such as social technologies. We deal with the Caatinga, which is very arid, so water access and storage is very important. Biodigesters, reutilization of the water, reuse of the water, these are complementary measures that help the resilience of these farmers. In the business plans with the cooperatives, today we support more than 1,200 rural organizations considered cooperatives, and we have an investment that is more than 50,000 benefited families by these cooperatives. We work in the semi-arid area, so greater part of those cooperatives deal with chains like um, bee, honey culture, the goat cheese, and goat dairy. And we also support the establishment of a center of cooperatives. For example, the center of Caatinga that helps people to protagonize the products of these family farmers in the semi-arid areas in Caatinga to compare the effects of family farming and agribusiness. There are some themes that we need to highlight. Sergio posed a question that is important: the transference of technology. Aside from the IFAD's focus is the family farming, we have to potentialize because both are rural producers, so both can win. The transference of technology, the agribusiness has access to knowledge in a IT standards. They have access to a faster access to information, and they have this assistance to create bonds. So this information can be passed to family farmers. As Romanna mentioned, family farmers has tends to some kinds of production like organic productions. So the systems of agroforestry, I think this transference happens both ways. I think the bond with the agribusiness with family agriculture is the access to market and commercialization. Some cooperatives that IFAD supports has a bond with the agribusiness that helps to reach some markets in bigger centers such as capitals in Brazil, but also in markets abroad. Some conclusions, final conclusions that I would like to say in these 3 minutes. First is the importance of having intervention, demand-driven approach. I've had this from United Nations, but you cannot arrive here with something a one size fits all. No, you need also using data from government in the states and the civil society and work through a participative method. Another aspect that for IFAD is very important is the management of knowledge. IFAD has an office in Salvador and headquarters in Brasília. You have this cooperation for Latin America. There is the center. We have these challenges of family agriculture in Brazil, but we have a lot to learn from these challenges. For example, the methods of organic production, systems of agroforestry, the work with networks and alliances. Many countries can learn from our family businesses. You don't have many countries that have secretary, a part of the ministry dedicated to this area. You don't have many countries. You can use technologies to include women. IFAD has developed a tool that measures better the contribution, the financial contribution of women in family agriculture, something that goes unnoticed usually. So this development of this kind of material is important to put family agribusiness, family farmers in an important role. FIDA has a partnership with the civil society and partners to inform decisions of the public policies. In the case of the Northeast, works with the forum of secretaries of the family farmers in the Northeast. IFAD has the pleasure since 2017 to help the organization of this forum that joins all the secretaries in the Northeast of Brazil, and also a consortium of the governors of the Northeast. And there was even a gathering in 2021 with all the governors. So I would like to thank you so much to show what is our work at IFAD and to put in evidence the importance of the family farming or the development of Brazil, and to put food in the people's tables, and also the reduction of poverty. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hardi. You know that we even get to a conclusion that we're glad that we're seen at this moment, not only by the audience here, but everyone that is watching virtually. So we learned that FIDA, from extreme poverty, it's not easy, and you're doing great work in this. And I believe that this is the proposal. And so this is something that we're discussing right now. Thank you very much. I wanted to know if Mr. Fernando Casablancas is online. Are you there?
Yeah, I don't know if you can you listen?
Vocês conseguem me ouvir?
Yes, but
Hello? Hello, everybody. Hi. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Greetings from Abidjan, Ivory Coast. I would like to thank the organizer for the opportunity to participate in this panel, which has a very interesting theme of our work in the African Development Bank. My presentation today will see the topic from African perspective. In other words, we are at important points in the relationship between family farming and the agricultural agribusiness. A quick point that I would like to highlight is the difference of the concept of the family farming that we have here in Latin America with Africa. In general, when we talk about non-corporate agriculture, in Africa, it's more common to refer this as a productive productive unit as a small farmer, and to the commercial of agribusiness around the value chain, we call the medium enterprise, and also a concept that is coming this day that is agripreneur. These two categories can be seen as a unit of analysis similar to the family farming defined in Latin America. Perhaps there's an important difference that the access of the capabilities and the finance and the technology that the small farms in Africa have a little bit difference between what happening in Latin America. I will try also to use these categories in my presentation to explain some of the agribusiness opportunities and the challenge that these families of the smaller farmer have in the current situation. Okay, with this clarification, I think I first a fundamental aspect that I would like to highlight is the transformation process that is currently affecting to the African food systems. The main driving of this transformation can be seen as mega trends that are taking place more or less in all the countries of the continent. Among them, we have there's a growth of the urban population in parallel with the growth of the personal income. There's a technological change that through all the food production and the marketing value chain. And finally, we can mention the growth of foreign trade in food inputs, final products, that they are creating a greater interaction between the global national agricultural value chain. These drivers are promoting new food consumption partners as well as innovative forms of coordination, including new trade networks and vertical integration models. In the recent years, the flow of international investment and imports have promoted and the spread of new practices and also the products. The African food market has become a major source of opportunities for agribusiness. However, African agribusiness companies and producers are unable to cap the full potential of their local demand. Today, the local production cannot respond to this new demand. Annual food imports coming to Africa have an average of 74 billions per year in the last 20 years, indicating that the national value chains still need to improve their performance. Agricultural productivity is behind of the duration, processing segments are less competitive, and the logistics costs are high to affecting of the systems. Food imports are estimated to reach 110 billions in 2025. So for the theme of this panel, it's very important to highlight the impact of the increase of the urban population, the impact that they have on the diets. The demand for more elaborate, fresh products, green vegetables, meat, are gaining space against the traditional products. But this change also occurs in the diet of rural populations. 25 years ago, farmers produced what they eat and ate what they produce, with a little commercial activity. But the estimation to date indicated that the rural population are buying and commercializing between the 45 and 75% of their food. So in order to feed cities, capitals, secondary cities, supply chains must extend increasingly into rural areas, between areas, eventually going to other countries in the continent. Longer supply chains are one of the drivers to rise the mainstream segment participation, including traders and logistics. Longer supply chains are creating opportunities for small and medium enterprise. So what we can see now is that this change in the preference, perhaps is growing in the middle class, this rapid urbanization and the consolidation of the technical innovation are changing all the food industry in the continent. These new habits have induced to a structural transformation along all the value chain. So we can better describe this process of transformation with identifying these changes with the revolutions. So we have the emergence of the supermarket revolution at the retail level, the silence revolution that we call the middleman and all the logistic inside moving production to the process and to the market, and also a new food service revolution that responding to the emerging preference of the city to have new habits of consumption. The evolution of the value chain, how observed initially, this evolution can be, we saw this revolution in Europe, in US, then in Latin America, now it's taking place in Africa. It's very important to mention that this transformation has also provided significant benefits to private sector. In Africa, now we estimations are that 80% of the Africa food is channeled to consumers through the small, medium enterprise and large companies. Activity, they are participated in the intermediate segments, including fraud processing, wholesale and distribution, logistics, and also the retail. The intermediate and the final segments of the value chain are taking the 60% of the value. Africa currently has almost all the segments that they are operating at the transitional stage. And in many cases, the domestic food value chains are losing markets against the imports, highlighting the need that we need to catch up, the productivity and the existing innovation to allow the farmers and the small, medium enterprise in agribusiness to capture and profit this new African demand. So the bank, we have an approach that we call a special agro-industrial processing zones. That is a kind of response that our bank is designing with the partners to, including IFAD is working in Nigeria and another country with us, in this new initiative. The idea is that to create the possibilities to the private sector to bring in infrastructure, power, roads, water, sanitation to the areas of where we have land with very capacity to produce. So we are trying to seeking to create optimal conditions to be able to add value to the new material that producing in Africa. We're trying to create the condition of profitability to be able to process the raw materials, the African raw materials in processing products. But then I would like to come back a little bit to one of the topics that we are proposing to this panel, and this is important to understand that keeping safe and adequate food supply chains also is related to increase the agricultural productivity of farmers and improve the standard of living of farming communities because they can capture these new markets. This aspect of competitiveness is a key to connecting the opportunities with higher quality of agricultural products, reduce the cost of transport and sales, and also the food and agribusiness company that we need to meet these standards that the imported products are also introducing to the food system. To this point, there are three important aspects that there's a change of the diets that promoting these new products that they are animal origin, fresh fruits, vegetables, that from the point of view, from health and perspective, are the riskiest. Even today, most of the products continue to be traded in the traditional food markets, where both perishable and dry products, live, slaughter animals are sold all together. So the safety condition, cleanness, the cold, but the value chain cold also is not the best and the optimal. From the public policy point of view, we know that improvement in urban food security will require investment in internal market infrastructure and greater knowledge of shared responsibility for providing safe food between regulators, value chain actors, and farmers. So finally, I would like to mention that that perhaps there's a connection between what happened in Brazil in the past and where we are living today in Africa with this food system in transition. I will try to trade this parallel because there's a similarity between the process of urbanization, infrastructure, and wholesale markets. So, for example, that Brazilian government developed in the 70s to address this problem is a very interesting way. So, what we mentioned, I think in Portuguese is SEASA, but the National Supply System Program includes to develop 21 supply centers. This systematic approach, this program became a powerful network of wholesale markets in urban areas, farmer markets in the rural areas, and more than 100 marketing points and retail markets. Another interesting point of this program is that the network also works as an integrate intelligent hubs, generating value in market information. So from this network was possible to estimate the urban demand for each product giving the opportunity to the small farmers in rural areas to adjust their production plans, reducing costs and optimizing procedures. With improved logistic, transparent market pricing mechanisms, and standardized supply procedures, Brazil fresh fruits and vegetable markets increasing the farmer incomes. So because family and small farmers are key players in the production of these high-value products, this network provides the government with innovative framework to introduce policy to continue to improve the food system, introducing innovation in food production. In addition, this network enables better traceability, providing incentives to incorporate new standards, modern packaging options, food production procedures, improving the quality of food production system. So to finish this, my small and short presentation is that I wanted to highlight the importance to share the social cooperation and social experience between the recent past of Brazil and the present of Africa context. So with this, I conclude my presentation, and thank you very much to all.
Obrigado, Fernando, a sua participação.
Thank you very much, Fernando. Your presentation was very important in terms of income that family farming represents a lot. There's a lot to be done still. And even in Brazil, we see that. Thank you very much, Fernando. And like to mention, I'd like to thank Romanna and the other panelists. Today, some 90% of the Brazilian produce, when we talk about food safety and food stability and sustainability, of course, we must include family farming. It is very important. So I appreciate all of you for being here today, sharing your knowledge. Thank you very much.